All right, so in this next video, we're going to cover the menu system. For this, I'm using the sample scene in the version that was after installing or building the enemy health bar system. And so from this, what we want to do first is we need a way to access the menu system. And so we're going to do that through our controls. So we'll open up our My Controls like we've done previously. And we're going to go ahead and click the plus next to the actions. Give us a new one. We're going to call it menu. So this is how we're going to leave it button. It'll just be a button press to get in there. And I'm going to go ahead and make it the select button on the controller. So I'm just going to use the listen. Click up here, make it listen, select. That's the one I want. And we're going to attach that to, we'll attach it to both at this point, cool controls and gamepad. But what we want to do is we're going to duplicate the My Controls again, and we're going to create specifically a menu controls input actions. And the main reason for this is if we're going to pause the game. We don't want things happening while we're in the menu, right? We don't want to get shot, time run if it's a time game, things like that. We want to just pause everything. However, even if we pause, we do run the potential risk of inputs being sent to the player if we're using the same player input system. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn that off and then turn on a specific menu controller system and just be able to toggle those on and off so that we don't run the risk of false inputs. So we'll just then come to our assets, the My Controls. We're going to add Control D to duplicate, and we'll just call this Menu Controls. And then let's go ahead and we'll double click on that. And we'll dock this guy down here, not there, down here. All right. As you can see, since we copied it, it's going to move it over. We're just going to, for this, we're going to leave move because we need to be able to move the controller up and down. And then we're going to actually delete all of these. Actually, we'll leave menu because we'll just change it. So we're going to delete those, and then we're going to change menu to select. And for that, we're going to end up changing this. It's still a button, but we want to change it to, I'm going to do a select. We want the A button or button south on the gamepad. And we're perfectly good leaving it there. Actually, let's go ahead and for this, we're going to add a control scheme. And we're going to add control scheme. And we're going to call this menu. And we'll add a gamepad. We'll have that required. And we can add we'll add also into this keyboard just to give us another option. We'll make that optional though. Okay, so now we've got our player still in our menu. Menu, that's perfect. We'll set this to gamepad for the moment. And then sometimes if we do, nope, it's not going to be nice. We're going to delete that. Ooh, we don't want all of them gone. Just want that one gone. Move, we'll add in add a binding. We're going to add our Up, down, left, right composite, and select will just be a binding of a button. It should say button, perfect. We'll rebuild this to, I want this to be A, button south, and then up, we're going to work through all the left stick up. Oops. Left stick up. Left stick down. Left will go left. And right will go right. All right, we want to just make sure those are selected for menu, which they are. Okay, we are good to go on that. We've got autosave on. So let's start creating what we're going to do. So we're going to go ahead and create a new UI. We're going to create a canvas, a new canvas. This time for the event system, we're going to leave it because we need it for interacting here. But for the canvas, let's call this the menu UI, just so that we have access to that. And then I changed earlier the other canvas, and I changed it to player UI just so I could track the two. So if yours still says just canvas, go ahead and change that to player UI, just once again for easy tracking. Into our menu UI, we're going to add a text mesh pro, and we're going to call this, let's call this menu, so that we just have, call that menu. So we have a menu here, and let's just pop way out so we can see it. We're going to center it. Let's make it black so it stands out. And we'll bold it and we'll underline it. And then let's move that up just a little bit. We're going to want this to kind of go over where everything is. So we got our menu there. And then we're going to right click again. And we're going to add a UI button, Text Mesh Pro. And for this, we'll just leave it that for now for a moment. But we want to change selected color because we want to see which is the one that's being activated. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to set it to kind of a version of red, whatever color you want it to be, perfectly good. But we want to go ahead and have something that's stating that's what it is. And we'll just go ahead, we'll call this button, we'll just save button, we'll just duplicate it right now because we're just going to have two buttons. And we'll move the second button down a little bit. Maybe we'll move both of them up just a smidge. Something about there. And so we'll call the first button, call it just return to game and exit game. All right, and then we want to drill down into both of these. It's going to go ahead and open up a Text Mesh Pro, and this is where we're going to change our text, return to game, which is now a little big. Let's change, I'm just going to change the font size down because I'm a little lazy. We can make the button bigger. I think this is fine. And then we'll change the exit game text to exit game. All right, so we've got both of those. So what we're going to do is we also want to come in, once again, remember like I said, we're going to make use of a different control scheme for this. And so to do that on our menu UI, we're going to add a component. We're going to go ahead and do a player input. So add component, player input. And so what we want to do then is just drag our menu controls over the actions we'll set this default scheme to menu, we'll not auto switch, and we'll leave it player because that is our action map there. Everything else here is good, so we can go ahead and save that for the moment. And then we want to, on our event system, because we're using the new input system, and this brings up the old one, we're just going to replace it. Nice, easy button press. And then what we also want to do here on the actions asset, it says the default actions. So the event system comes with just built-in input system for it, but we want to use our own. So we're just going to click on the target there, and we're going to click on the menu controls. And then we want to leave our player move, and we're going to do submit is going to be our player select. And that's going to give us access to that. Everything else can stay the same. Once again, we'll go ahead and give us a little save. All right, let's go ahead and create a new script that's going to handle this. So we're going to create a new script. Create C#. I thought I clicked on it. Create C#. There we go. We'll just call this menu controller, like we do with most everything else. And we're going to go ahead and open that up. Okay, so let's bring this back over. We're going to want to go ahead and start off by, I think it'll just load it. We want to go ahead and start with the serialized field. And we're going to make this private, but we're going to do it of the type canvas. Because once again, we want to be able to turn things on and off, right? We want to switch between the player UI and the menu UI. And so what we'll do is, once again, private canvas, and we'll call one player UI, and we'll just do the comma here because they're the same type, and then we'll do menu UI. So that loads both of those up. We definitely want to make sure that we're setting a private bool to check and see is menu on, right? And we'll set it to false to begin with. We want to know, do we have our menu activated, which will allow some certain things to happen, or if it is on, then when we turn it off, we know what we're doing there. So we're going to set a bool for that because I'm just going to move it up here with this one. We need to have access to know if we're pressing the menu button. So we're going to do the serialized field private input action reference, which then gives us that using Unity engine.input system, which is populated. And we're just going to call this menu. So do we hit the menu button? And so we've got the two player inputs like I talked about. So we're going to turn those on and off as we go. So we're going to need a reference for them. So we can do a private player input, and we'll call one PI and the other one MI. So player input and menu input. And then we're going to want one other serialized field. So I'm just going to put it up on the other ones. Serialized field. It's going to be a private game object where we're calling, and I'm just going to do an underscore menu on this one. We're going to be using this to reference, I'll show you, or in our event system, we're going to use that to state what the first selected item is going to be in our list, which will be our return to game. And so we've got that. All right. So we've got all of our variables set up, I believe. So we should be good there. We're going to want to, as you can see right now, our both menu systems are open. and visible, which we don't want that. And so we're going to go ahead and set our menu UI and enable equals false. So it's going to be quote on. We just don't want to be able to see it. We don't want to be able to interact with it at this point in time. So we're going to go ahead and set that to enabled equals false. And then we're going to go ahead and pass in the information to what our PI and MI are. So we're going to first do game object dot find player dot get component player inputs, and we're going to do the same thing for this game object dot find menu UI. Make sure you spell and capitalize it correctly. Get component player inputs. That way we can just access those really easy. Okay, so in our update, we want to go ahead and listen for, does the menu button get pressed that's on our My controller? So to do that, we're going to, as we set up here, we're going to do an if menu.action.triggered. Right, we've done this before. Did that button get pressed? If it has, we're going to go ahead and look and see if is menu on is false. Remember that the exclamation point here changes that to a false boolean. It can only be used with booleans, and so we want to be able to say, is the menu not on, basically. And so if it's not on, we're going to go ahead and turn the menu on. We're going to set time scale to 0, and this is what's going to technically stop anything from happening in the game while we're interacting with the menu. And then we're going to say that player UI dot enabled is false, right? We're turning off the bullets, shots fired, or kills, and then the hit percentage. So we're going to turn that off, and we're going to turn our menu UI dot enabled to true. So we're going to turn that on. So we'll flip those back and forth. And then we're going to, this is where we're going to reach out to our event system, which will come up here in a minute. It's going to add that in a second. Current, there it went. Current dot set selected game object, and we're going to set this to menu. And you. So we'll get that set up. That's just going to, when we drag that in, that's going to be what is the already selected one, and then it will make movements from there. So we're good with that. And then we want to, once again, we're going to turn off the ability for our player input enabled equals false, and our MI or menu input enabled equals true. And if you had an extra one like I did, delete that second semicolon. All right, so what that's doing, if we're turning on the menu, right, if that menu button was pushed and our menu is not currently on, turn on the menu, time scale to 0, turn off the player UI, turn on the menu UI. We're going to set that, in this case, return to game button is our active current button. And then we're going to turn off our player input and turn on our menu input. Okay. Now, from this, what we're going to do is we're going to do a public void close menu. So we're going to build what we need for closing the menu here. So if you hit return to game, we're going to close the menu. And so we're going to mostly just change what we did previously. We're going to say is menu on to false. Time scale equals 1, right? So that turns the playback on. player UI enabled equals true. Menu UI enabled is false. And we're going to then do our event system. And we're going to clear out what was in there because we don't want it staying there for next time, just in case we jumped into like another menu or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and current set selected game object. We'll set it to null for the time being. MI enabled is going to be false, and PI enabled is actually going to be true. All right, let's go ahead and save that. And then we're going to add the menu controller to our menu UI. Minimize those for a moment. So our player UI is going to be up here. Our menu UI, as you know, is here. Our input action is going to come from our assets folder, the my controls, because that's what we're using, and we're going to move that to the menu one over. And then I should really change this so they're just not the same, but it's all right. We're going to drag over return to game. Once again, remember that's the one that's going to set to being selected first, and then we're going to be able to use our joystick to go up and down through, and then our A button to make a selection. All right, so what we're going to do here is, so that gets that set up. We need to come to our return to game. Our button here, we don't need to worry about the image, but here in our button on the on click, we want to go ahead and click that, and we're going to select our scene, menu UI, and then we're going to go ahead and pick our menu controller and then select close menu. And so with that, we're going to be able to have it run the code here. It's going to close the menu. So if everything went according to plan, I'm not going to hold my breath yet, but we're going to see what happens. So when we press start, or when we press play, we should just see the player UI, the menu UI should disappear, the robot should start moving, and then quickly I'm going to hit the start button here, and we should see then the player info disappears, the robot should stop moving, and we see the menu options. So let's see if that actually happens. And of course it didn't happen, so something is not connected. We've got that. All of that is mapped through. Our event system is correct. That should all be good. So I think what our problem was, the reason we're not getting anything, is we have both inputs going at the same time. So we can't have two player inputs trying to grab each other's attention. So we need to make sure, like we've done already, we're going to turn the player input off on our menu UI. Let's see if that solves the problem. All right, we've got movement again. There we go. We've got a main menu. And as you can see, well, you can't see me on the stick, but I'm moving the left stick up and down, and it is switching between the two. And when I hit return to game or land on return to game and then press A, we come to the game, back to the game, and our robot goes off running. So we're going to go ahead and connect with the last piece of this. We're going to go ahead and bring this back over. Actually, we don't need to bring this back over because what we're going to do actually is we're going to scripts. We're going to change our close game script. So we're going to open that up. And we don't need to worry about the close game, so we can actually remove this system at the moment. But what we want to do here, so we're going to delete this. And we're just going to run a public void close exit game. And so now we are going to just take just this part of the script and move it up here. We're going to delete our unupdate because we don't need it. We're just going to be going there. We can actually move our that one, and we'll hit, because we can't see it yet, we're going to do a debug.log exiting, saving data and exiting the game. Why not? We'll do something big. All right, so now that we've got that, what we can just do is come to our exit game button. So then on our on click, we'll hit a plus. For this, we're going to go, I believe it's the controller that we want in our scene. We click scene, controller, double click that, and then we want close game, which is our script, and exit game, that's our function. And save that. I'm going to turn the console on. And somewhere I've got a what running script. That's funny. And we'll go ahead and play. I'm going to hit my select for pause. And then I'm going to do exit game. Hit A. And there we go. We've got saving data, exiting the game. It's got a null reference. I'm sure that's mostly because I'm running some things. Let me just double check and make sure that that is correct. Let's see what this is attached to. Complaining about the save load, and I think that's actually because, yeah, we don't actually have the save load on here. We would need to push that all through. So for this version, we're just going to leave it here. I don't want to change our code anymore. If you did want to, you would, if you wanted to leave it at just this, it could be just application.quit. And then delete that line. Otherwise, you would need to go through like we've done on our save and load. So I'm just going to, for the time being, comment that out so we at least don't get the error. Delete that debug line that I threw in there at one point. And so once again, you could connect this through to the save load, just like we did in class and in that video. Otherwise, we have a fully workable menu system with our controller. Once again, all we're doing is we're setting start or select to be our pause. It pauses the game as it is here, and then we can use our joystick for moving between the two, and then our A button selects. So hopefully this is helpful as you're building your menu systems for your game. And I'll see you all in the next video.